During a routine dive off the coast, Colton's adventure took a heart-stopping turn when he noticed an unusual glint in the mouth of a passing shark. Driven by a mix of fear and fascination, he managed to carefully extract the object, his hands shaking as he held his breath underwater. Colton immediately swam back to the surface as quickly as he could. He couldn't believe that he had just found this in a random shark's mouth. He wanted to show it to his friends up on the boat, knowing they would be absolutely shocked. He still had no idea that soon he would regret ever even finding this thing. It would put him in grave danger and change his life forever. Their mouths fell open when they heard that Colton had actually taken it out of a shark's mouth. But whose camera was it? What pictures would they find on it? And to what kind of danger would it lead them? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Colton and his friends inspected the camera more closely, wanting to find out who it belonged to. Sadly, its battery was empty and they were unable to turn it on. But they recognized that it was an underwater camera, so it should still be intact. They agreed to leave it for the time being and decided they would charge it as soon as they got home. For the rest of the day, the group of friends continued diving and enjoying their time in the water. Colton even forgot about the camera for a while until they all returned to the ship when it was time to go home. They all went to Colton's house and ordered pizza as they usually did after a day in the water. Colton was really impatient and he could barely wait for the camera to charge. He whooped when the red blinking light finally stopped, indicating that the camera was fully charged. "It is time, my friends," he said as he ceremoniously removed the charger and pressed the on button. They all gathered around the camera. "Quickly, let's see what the last picture was." Colton pressed some buttons and suddenly a photo popped up on the screen. Before they could take a good look at it, though, the screen started glitching and it went black. "Shit!" he called out, and he tried turning the camera on and off again a few times, but it didn't work. Luckily, Colton was a quick thinker, and he was able to connect the camera to his laptop. Colton clicked through the photos rapidly. First came a series of images of colorful coral reefs teeming with fish. Jellyfish floated serenely in another, their tentacles trailing like delicate lace. Then came a turtle, its shell patterned and ancient as it swam lazily across the frame. As they flipped through more aquatic shots, a different kind of image appeared. A small boat bobbed among the waves, clear under the sunlit sky. People were visible on deck, moving around. Was this guy spying on them or something? Colton muttered as he leaned closer. Zooming in on the boat photos, Colton's brow furrowed. Who are these people? He wondered aloud. The images showed the boat from various angles, as if the photographer was circling it, capturing every detail. Photos showed parts of the deck, ropes, and a cooler. One blurry photo seemed to be taken hastily inside the cabin, the edges blurred as if snapped in a hurry. "He got on the boat," Colton announced, tension rising in his voice. The last photo sequence was chaotic. A half-eaten sandwich on a paper plate, a spilled drink, a pair of sunglasses askew on a seat. The final shot was of the boat's floor. The camera apparently dropped. "What happened here?" Colton's friend whispered. As they continued browsing the images, one last photo loaded, showing a bald man staring directly at the camera with a stern, unsettling look. The mood shifted instantly. They knew this was no ordinary holiday snapshot. Without hesitation, Colton began transferring all the images from the camera to his laptop. "We need to keep these safe," he declared as he created a new folder labeled Boat Mystery. The group huddled around the kitchen table. They discussed how the bald man's harsh gaze didn't sit right with them, and calling the police felt like the responsible thing to do. Colton picked up his phone and dialed the local police station. The officer on the line was calm, asking them to bring the camera and the images as potential evidence. As soon as they entered the station, Officer Gary led Colton to a small room. "So, you found this camera in a shark's mouth?" Colton detailed how the camera ended up in their hands, but Officer Gary seemed skeptical. "A shark, really? That's new," he commented dryly. Despite his doubts, Officer Gary took the camera and assured them it would be examined forensically. "You're free to go for now," Officer Gary said as he stood up. "But don't stray too far. We might need more from you." Back at his house, Colton pored over digital copies of the photos on his laptop. He zoomed into backgrounds, faces, and odd corners, searching for anything he might have missed. While digging through online articles and forums, Colton stumbled upon a missing persons report about an aquatic photographer who had disappeared a few months ago. The description matched the camera's model and the style of the photos. It seemed too much of a coincidence. Could this be the same guy? Determined, Colton mapped out his return to the harbor. He jotted down notes on what to look for and prepared a small bag with his camera and binoculars. Early in the morning, Colton arrived at the harbor, his eyes scanning the moored boats. He moved quietly, avoiding any conversations. He knew the importance of maintaining secrecy, aware that any slip might expose his intent. While he searched, he acted like any other visitor, occasionally stopping to admire the boats as if he were just a curious tourist. Finally, Colton saw it. The boat from the photos was moored at the far end of the harbor. He ducked behind a stack of fishing nets, watching the boat through binoculars. As he observed, the bald man from the photos walked onto the deck of the boat, the man with the menacing look moving around the boat with a sense of authority. Colton snapped a few discreet photos, ensuring not to draw any attention to himself. Suddenly, a harbor worker approached Colton, whispering urgently, "Be careful around that boat, mate. The owner's bad news." Before Colton could respond, the worker glanced nervously towards the boat and quickly disappeared into the crowd. Each glance towards the bald man and his associates added layers to his worry. He wondered about the stories the boat could tell and what dangers might lurk aboard. He discreetly used his phone to take notes and make a rough sketch of the boat's layout. Just as he was about to leave, Colton overheard a conversation around the corner of a shipping container. Two men were talking in hushed tones. "The police had found his camera. They'll come looking for him in no time now," one said anxiously. Colton's ears perked up. Understanding the immediate danger of being overheard or spotted, Colton quickly slipped away from the area. From a safer location, Colton zoomed in with his camera lens, capturing detailed shots of the boat and any visible crew members. He focused on documenting everything he could from this new vantage point, ensuring he had enough visual evidence. Walking through his front door, he paused, taking a deep breath, preparing mentally for what lay ahead. First thing, Colton called the police station seeking any updates about the camera or the boat. His voice was steady as he asked for Officer Gary, hoping for some piece of information that might help him piece together the mysterious events. The response from the police was disheartening. "No new information at this time," came the reply. With no updates or leads from the police, he hung up the phone, feeling more isolated but even more resolved to continue his investigation. Later, Colton gathered his closest friends to share his plan. "I need to get on that boat and see for myself." His friends exchanged worried glances, expressing their concerns about the danger involved, but Colton's determination was palpable. He packed a small bag with a flashlight, a camera, and some other essentials. Under the veil of night, Colton approached the harbor. Colton crept among the large shipping containers stacked near the boat, looking for any sign of illicit activity or discarded evidence that could be linked to the boat. His eyes darted around, seeking anything out of place. He carefully lifted tarps and peered into open containers, his hands gloved to avoid leaving fingerprints. As he sifted through a particularly cluttered area, the sound of footsteps startled him. Colton quickly ducked behind a large blue container, holding his breath. Once the coast was clear, Colton resumed his surveillance. Suddenly, he caught sight of the bald man from the photos. The man boarded the boat with a brisk, purposeful stride. Colton's anxiety surged as he watched, recognizing the gravity of the situation. Colton froze as a scream pierced the night, echoing off the metal containers. His heart raced. He feared for his own safety as much as the source of the cry. Crouching low, he scanned the dimly lit area, hoping not to be spotted. The scream had come from nearby, and he knew he had to investigate despite the risk. Moving cautiously towards the sound, Colton found a container with its door slightly ajar. He approached silently, his nerves on edge. He pushed the door open further, peering inside with apprehension. Inside the container, the dim light revealed a shocking scene. A man was sitting on a chair, a bag over his head, his body slumped forward. Colton's breath caught in his throat as he stepped closer, his hands trembling slightly. He quickly removed the bag, revealing the face of a man disheveled and frightened. Colton recognized the man immediately. It was the missing photographer from the reports. His hands were tied, but Colton acted quickly, freeing him. "You're safe now," he assured the photographer, who was visibly shaken but relieved. They exchanged a brief, grateful look, a silent acknowledgement of the rescue. As they prepared to leave the container, sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder. Colton knew they had to move fast. He quickly loosened the ropes, binding the photographer's hands completely, and guided him to a safer hiding spot among the shadows. As the police arrived, they moved quickly to detain the perpetrators on the boat. Colton watched from a distance, relieved as the officers handcuffed the bald man and his associates. Thanks to Colton's tip and the evidence he had gathered, the police were prepared. The scene unfolded rapidly, with law enforcement securing the area and ensuring no one else was in danger. The photographer, now safe, stood beside Colton as they watched the arrests. His relief was palpable, a stark contrast to his earlier fear. Officers escorted the criminals to police vehicles, their heads bowed. The photographer looked at Colton, his eyes expressing a depth of gratitude that went beyond words. The danger had passed, and he was finally free from his captivity. It was revealed that the photographer had inadvertently captured images of the criminals using their boat for transporting illegal goods. When they realized he had potentially incriminating photos, they decided to silence him. The police pieced together the operation from the photos and information Colton provided, grateful for the unexpected clues that led to the unraveling of the criminal network. The police publicly lauded Colton for his bravery and quick thinking. His actions had not only saved the photographer, but also helped dismantle a significant criminal operation. The local news arrived, eager to cover the story of a local hero. Colton shared his experience modestly, emphasizing teamwork and the importance of community vigilance. Normalcy slowly returned to the harbor, now under closer scrutiny by local authorities. Additional patrols were set up, and new security measures were discussed to prevent similar occurrences.